Saga of the Red Crane Through the Garden of Doom 1. Riding at a gallop through pools of moonlight and shadow, Saku ordered Maurice to slow down as they entered a strange city overgrown with giant vines and huge glowing flowers. Carefully, Maurice picked his way through the narrow streets and only halted when Saku tugged on his mane. With a grim expression, she searched the buildings for signs of an ambush, but didn't spot anything. She was about to order Maurice to move on when she heard a strange blend of whispers and sounds coming from the fog. Sounds she couldn't quite make out, but somehow recognized from her childhood. What strange realm had they happened upon? What were these giant vines? What were these strange sounds? She didn't know. She couldn't know. The nightmare was beyond words, beyond reason, beyond comprehension. And she had stopped trying to understand what could not be understood long ago. Maurice neighed, and she understood him. "I don't like this place," he said. "Let's get out of here." This, too, she didn't try to understand, but was grateful to have a friend she could communicate with, even if he was a horse. Saku nodded and pointed to a mountain range just beyond the city realm. "We'll find refuge in the hills. Let's—" A sudden explosion interrupted her. Bulbous flowers suddenly burst into clouds of shimmering mist as a massive vine struck her so hard her teeth rattled. Then, from the shadows, another smashing, thundering vine thrust her off Maurice. Instinctively, she reeled to her feet as countless vines attacked her from every direction. With a high-pitched ring, she withdrew her katana, spun, thrust, and sliced away. And just as she sliced the very last vine, she heard a desperate whinny. Saku turned to see vines dragging Maurice into a dark alley, his hooves desperately chopping air, his head thrusting back and forth to break free. With a great sense of urgency, Saku bolted after Maurice, but stopped suddenly when she heard another strange noise. From behind her came the march of feet and the clang of metal. Saku turned slowly to register a mass of fog advancing on her as though it were alive. And then from the swirling mass of fog came undead warriors clad in armor she vaguely recognized. And not wanting to lead this undead army to Maurice, she charged toward the mountain silhouetted by the moon. Saga of the Red Crane Through the Garden of Doom 2. Charging up the jagged mountain trail, Saku searched for a cave or crevice to hide from the undead army. Now she was certain that she had somehow been lured into a trap created by the Black Serpent clan, who could manipulate the fog and use her memories against her. She had hunted down and executed most of the clan members back home, and she had followed the remaining cowards into this living nightmare that had trapped them all. With a rasping breath, Saku halted when she reached a bottomless chasm. The end of the trail. Nowhere to run. Nowhere to hide. Gathering herself, she stared long and hard into the endless darkness below. There were too many soldiers to contend with. She would likely die here. At least she had given Maurice a fighting chance by diverting the army from him. She hoped he had found a way out of his entanglement, and that he would continue to hunt down the Black Serpents in her absence. Then, taking a deep breath, Saku closed her eyes and visualized the battle to come as she prepared for the inevitable. The absolutely horrifying maniacal puppet show, guest starring Ashy Slashy 1. Mahan led his young niece Haley and her stepbrother Jaden and their friend Brock through the thickening fog. Cautiously, he tracked the lost members of their ragtag multiverse squad that had split up after a deadly encounter with a giant wooden puppet. The puppet had chased them through a junkyard with an eerie laugh he couldn't get out of his head, like an advert jingle. He didn't know if the rest of his squad was dead or alive, but he somehow sensed they were hiding out there in the endless darkness. The laugh came again, bouncing and scraping through his head. He shuddered and felt his skin prickle up his back. He didn't think things could get any weirder in this world made of dark imagination and living nightmares. And if he didn't see another puppet, another evil puppet for the rest of his life, he would die a happy man. But just as he formed the thought, as though the nightmare were reading his mind, a strange purple and yellow booth materialized before him out of the fog. Mahan cursed to himself for thinking about creepy puppets as he raised a cautioning hand and read a sign that formed huge white letters. The absolutely horrifying maniacal puppet show. Puppets. Bloody puppets. He tried to suppress his thoughts and signaled with his hand to maneuver around the booth when a sudden maniacal laugh startled him. With thunderous applause that seemed to come from the fog, a spotlight found a shadowy figure emerging from the curtains.
Hold on there, meat puppets. The show's just begun.
The absolutely horrifying maniacal puppet show, guest starring Ashy Slashy 2. Mahan turned to see a small puppet with a tuft of fuzzy black hair, black malicious button eyes, and a chainsaw for an arm. The puppet introduced himself as Ashy Slashy, the greatest puppet ever.
Have any of you seen my namesake?
Ashy Slashy asked.
He looks like me, but much, much dumber. He's got to destroy something for me. No big deal.
No one answered. There was a strange, tense silence. Then Ashy released a maniacal laugh, stopped suddenly, then laughed again, and stopped awkwardly. Brock and Jaden looked at each other and chuckled as Ashy fixed his bulging black eyes on Haley.
Ready to play, doll?
Haley scrunched her face.
What does he mean? And don't call me doll. Okay, Toots. I'll show you what I mean.
Suddenly the ground shook, and fog swirled and thickened to engulf the squad. Cheers and applause rose to a crescendo, then stopped all at once, leaving them in complete darkness and silence. When the fog dissipated, they found themselves inside an abandoned asylum made from cardboard, construction paper, and duct tape. Mahan stared at Haley, Jaden, and Brock with wide eyes. He couldn't believe what was happening, what he was seeing. They had shrunk, and they were puppets. Then he looked to his own puppet hand and sighed deeply, accepting he was now a puppet and not even beginning to try to understand what could not be understood. Before he could mutter a word, the sudden buzz of a chainsaw filled the asylum, followed by a cackle and a disturbing yell.
Ready or not, here I come, starting with you, sweet cheeks, and you know exactly who I'm talking about.
The absolutely horrifying maniacal puppet show, guest starring Ashy Slashy 3. Bolting down the cardboard hallway, Puppet Mahan reached the garage door of the asylum. He halted and read a sign above the door, "Escape here." He turned to face Puppet Jaden, who handed him the AA batteries they had scavenged in the asylum, and he told Puppet Haley to get ready to lift the door. He then realized for the first time they had lost Brock. Where the hell's Brock? Just as he asked the question, Puppet Brock came staggering around the corner, screaming for help. He didn't get very far before a chainsaw ripped through his body, sending puffs of white fluff and red confetti into the air. Trembling, Puppet Mahan struggled to add the batteries to the electric panel, and just as he placed the last battery, Puppet Jaden pushed the button to unlock the door, and Puppet Haley thrust the door upward with a thunderous smacking sound.
Where you going, Toots? I got a little something for you.
Haley turned to face Ashy. Don't really care for little.
Feisty.
And with a diabolical scream, Ashy Slashy came rushing toward them as the last 3 puppet survivors raced outside and desperately dove through a wall of fog. Applause filled the asylum and stopped suddenly as Ashy approached the exit door. He shook his head and released a groan of frustration followed by a peal of laughter.
And we were just getting started. Such a tease.
With difficulty, Mahan rose and helped Jaden and Haley to their feet. To his relief, they were human again. He sighed and was grateful most of them survived this horrifying puppet realm. And as he prepared to continue his search for the lost squad members, he tried not to think of giant wooden puppets, or any other type of puppet for that matter. He didn't want to give the living nightmare any more ideas. Memory 4011. All things considered, the Pineapple is one of the better internet cafes Min has been to. Even through her headphones, she can hear the boy at the next station snoring. Is it nighttime? There are no windows back here. Min takes another gulp of her energy drink. Her phone buzzes next to the keyboard. She ignores it and plants the flag on her home base. The banner fills the screen. Victory. Winning used to feel good. Now it's all she expects of herself. Losing hurts all the same. Why does she feel like she's losing all the time? She's booted back to the lobby and queues for the next match. Her phone buzzes again. She knows what she'll hear on the other end of the line. Her father yelling again, telling her she's wasting her time, her mind, her life. Mom will probably be crying close by, just to make sure Min can hear her. The phone stops buzzing. I still need to go home at some point. The yelling will be even louder then, maybe even worse than yelling. Things can't keep going like this. I'm not wasting my life. Min watches the screen dissolve into a loading screen. This is my life. So many people become famous playing MOBAs like this one. I'm just as good as any one of them. The only difference is they're playing in stadiums, and I'm stuck here at the Pineapple. The game starts. Someone taps her on the shoulder. She ignores it. Go away, I'm not feeling sociable today. Another tap on the shoulder. Min spins around in her seat. The girl is about her age. Cool hoodie, new clean sneakers. She's looking right at Min.
Your username is Shining Lion, isn't it? We should talk.
Memory 196. His dad takes the claw hammer from him. Let me show you. He flips it around so the business end is facing him, slides the claw under the nail, and rocks it back and forth. The nail comes out with ease. You need leverage, son. Caleb tries himself. The nail comes out immediately. He turns to his dad and grins, and his dad nods back at him. What's this thing for, anyway? Catching critters in the garden? Caleb's father winces. All the nails seem a little cruel. Well, I don't want him to get away. Just remember this. When you're making something, simple is best. Imagine removing parts from it. If it would still work just as well, you didn't need that part in the first place. But where's the fun in that? Arcus 1278. I received another strange note on my door about the sweet darkness. This one wasn't signed Zed or Zezel or Zezeltrix. This one was signed Lady Trix. I don't know what to think about all this bizarre excitement and this obvious attempt to lure me away from the tower. I'm adding the note to my Mad Designer collection, as I'm quite certain they are one and the same.